Good night. Although I do think there is a bit of unnecessary violence, or possibly a good deal of unnecessary violence, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. When you have people who want to express their feelings towards a band and they're up there and they're going at it, it's going to happen. Eventually, someone's going to fucking smack the wrong guy and there's going to be a fight. But if you're in there and if you're working and you're moving and you're swinging and you're kicking, you know, I mean, you better, you know, if someone hits you, you better be ready for it. I mean, don't be in there if you don't want to get hit.
Hardcore is basically not like bumping into each other, it's making your own room. Ska and punk is basically about bumping into people and like dancing and stuff, you know, with other people. But the mosh pits are like, I guess, different from every scene, because if you go to a show where there's metal mix, they dance crazy to me, like stage dive feet first. You don't want someone kicking you in the head and stuff.
Yeah, you really can't play aggressive music and delude yourself into thinking that no one's going to respond aggressively. By the same token, I like to give people credit for enough intelligence and compassion to like respect the people around them too. Maybe that's naive.
It's such a thin line, you know, like you try and regulate something, you know, like trying to say what's cool and what isn't, but it's the same thing. I think in the beginning, you know, people hadn't really established a form, let's say, of slamming or whatever you want to call it, and so you didn't run into so many problems. But then, you know, as people keep doing it, they start developing styles the same way, you know, any other dancing form has styles, I guess.
It's become such a show in the pit. You know, you got a lot of kids with ego problems, and they go up there, and their whole purpose is to hurt someone. And I think that's wrong. I think a lot of the dance styles is wrong. You know, I think you can go out there and you can dance. Sometimes the music really motivates you, and sometimes I see kids dancing, and it's like they're not even listening to music. They're out there to impress someone. You know, they're out there with something to prove. That always used to, man, that really irked me.
We used to stop playing, like, and just leave, but now it's like...
If you stop, the show's ruined anyway. It's like, idiots fight.
It's such a bunch of punks. What are you gonna say, man? Idiots.
Nothing you can say about that. Anyway, that fight's stupid, you know?
If they do that, that proves off to not watching the band. They're just kind of dancing to see each other dance and see who's tougher in the pit. Watch each other and be like, yeah, my turn now, and go in. And I just get really insulted, and I think any band should get insulted and want to stop playing. And we used to stop playing, but now we kind of have more responsibility. As far as, you know,
to the people who aren't fighting.
You know, we're drawing more people. You know, people might want to see us a little more, so they might get a little madder that we leave. So
we played in Minneapolis and a place called First Avenue, and we sold, I think it was like 400 tickets, and they gave away another 300 tickets to these people at a Weezer show the night before. So it was a packed house. And the kid, you could see who was into hardcore and who got the free tickets, and we're diving feet first onto kids' heads.
If it was a strictly hardcore audience, we wouldn't have had that problem. But it was a radio giveaway, so a whole bunch of kids that didn't know the etiquette came in and ended up hurting themselves.
There's nothing wrong with people from different scenes and different walks of life getting together, going to a hardcore show. That's all good, you know? The more things get out there and the more it's looked at in a decent light, the better it is. But if you're going to really try and dance and do this and that, and you don't know what you're doing, you might get hurt. So, you know, you got to be careful.
The idiots come and dance hard and start fights and punch people.
It's up to the scene, to unite and teach the new kids it's not about slam, dude.
You don't need scene police, just behave.
Right there on, It's all about football and shit tackling, motherfuckers, you know what I mean?
Is it not?
No.
I see too many really cool people out there getting kicked in the head, and I think it's fucked. But, you know, it's like there's a good and a bad everything. If you're clever, you'll know how to mosh without hurting someone.
I think there's such a thing as conscientious slamming. You know, knowing that people behind you aren't dancing and then kicking backwards without them expecting it, or whipping your fist into their face when they're not expecting it, isn't like conscientious, you know.
As you guys might have guessed, we're the uppy side. We have a few small favors to ask you. Feel free to sing along and do your thing. Respect each other and respect this club.
I mean, it's one of those things you can't, you know, how do you keep something rough and regulate it at the same time. You know, so you just have to, you know, if people are acting out of hand, you just have to try and discipline it yourself, I guess.
Don't fucking do that shit. It's fucking wrong. You want to beat someone's ass because they fucking skank wrong or they fucking not punk enough for you? Well, fuck you. Well, here's fucking one. Right? It's all about fucking unity, right? South Florida hardcore, yeah! What a fuckery, man. Am I more punk than you? No. We're all the same, man. Smithies! I know how it feels.
You know, everyone says, "Oh, back that was the good old days." It wasn't, because there's a lot more violence than it is nowadays. The shows are better now because there's not so much violence. But the quality of the lyrics to me was a lot better back then. You have bands like MIA singing about the CIA in Central America. You don't have that nowadays. We sing about Reagan, like Wasted Youth sing about Reagan, and Reagan, like the Reagan years are coming and the Republicans are getting back into power, and you don't have that nowadays. You know, you don't have bands singing about politics and shit unless it's like a hardcore band. You know. To me, straight edge is a very positive movement. I was straight edge for over 18 years of my life. And it was at the time of my life when I needed it the most. High school and junior high was when drugs started coming into my life, and all these friends of mine were like smoking out and all this kind of stuff. And straight edge all of a sudden came in, and it was like hardcore and it's punk rock, and it's something like to really believe in. And at school, I had to worry about, you know, grades. I had to worry about, I was playing sports, my arms were longer than my body. There was girls all of a sudden. I was just all fucked up, right? And thank God I didn't get into drugs and fuck up myself even more. Life's pretty hard enough just trying to get by, and then without having drugs, so thank God for straight edge at that time, for me.
Straight edge is the reason that I became as involved as I did in the hardcore scene. The positivity expressed through straight edge is immeasurable. I think it's excellent that bands like Minor Threat, Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, they gave kids, like kids who weren't interested in spending their Friday nights completely fucking wasted, you know, a release. And they gave them reasons why straight edge is the way to go and why fucking yourself up is not the way to go.
Straight edge is a promise you make to yourself to never drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, take illegal drugs, or be promiscuous. And the reasoning behind it is to have a clear mind and to use that clear mind to reach out to other people and do what you can and start thinking about fairness and start thinking about, you know, how to make things more just in society and the world as a whole. It's about being accountable for your actions.
Straight edge
and obviously
is not just simple abstinence from drugs and alcohol and smoking and promiscuity. It's about freedom. It's about using that freedom, that clarity of mind that we have as a vehicle for progression to make ourselves more peaceful people. And by making ourselves more peaceful people, we make the world more of a just place.
We basically ask the absolute least of people, and that's that they, you know, have a clear mind, they concern themselves with fairness, they're accountable for their actions, and that they are vegan, they are vegetarian, so that they're realistic, try and make a difference. I think militance at this point in time is absolutely necessary if you look at the situation that surrounds us. I'm a pacifist to a point, but I believe, you know, in standing up for beings that can't resist their oppressors on their own.
Don't ask this guy, dude. Just listen to my. He was straight edge like 5 minutes ago.
I'm for
It's my personal lifestyle. It's like Ian McKay was singing about something personal. You know what I mean? Everybody took it to like the total extreme. I mean, I just don't smoke, I don't drink. You know,
but you
do
never
drugs.
have.
But here's my reality. I never tried none of that shit before I even knew what Minor Threat was. You know, I'm 27 years old today. I never tried a cigarette, a joint, beer, drugs, ever. Then I found this dude singing about something I could relate to, and that's the only thing I got from it. You know, maybe he might have got me psyched to be who I was, but he didn't make me the way I am.
I was straight edge, non-stop, hardcore, until all through high school, until I graduated high school. So basically, started out in Ian McKay and ended up with Jimmy Gestapo, you know what I mean? But I think that's fine. You know, I grew out of it. I know a lot of my friends who I was in the straight edge scene with grew out of it as well, but I think if you're keeping it there and you're straight, I got no problem with you, except if you got a problem with me for what I do. As long as you respect what I do, I totally respect what you do.
Within this band, you've got a straight edge guy, you've got guys who drink and don't smoke weed.
You're a washed up fella.
Guys who smoke weed.
You got a 24-year-old living in a fucking 50-year-old body.
You got guys who smoke weed and don't drink.
And Baby New Year.
You got vegetarians, vegans, meat eaters, all within this 5 people, and it doesn't make a difference to us being a band of friends. And that's the way it should be.
It seems like in the straight edge circle, people like a band just because they're straight edge. It doesn't really matter what, what the music is. And I wish that people would listen to the music and listen to what, I guess what they're trying to get out and judge it like that, because there's a lot of really cheesy straight edge bands out there, that people love just because they're straight edge. And so, I think people should just listen to the music they like. And,
Straight edge serves a purpose. It gives people a sense of pride where they may not have it coming from anywhere else. So in that way, it's good, but I didn't really ask about straight edge.
Before it takes their lives, it takes their minds, it takes their pride, and it takes their honor. The song is against alcoholism. It's called The Situation Degenerates.
The number one reason that Carl's singing and that I'm singing in Ignite is to pass my message across and his message. And if he can get on Ozzy's label and get on huge shows and pass veganism and straight edge to these people on MTV, because he's not going to make a video of MTV like masturbating with his guitars like Winger would or something like that. You know what I'm saying? He's going to make a video that's going to teach people things in the Midwest when they're watching. He's going to go on these big tours and maybe teach some people about straight edge and veganism. So all power to him. And I hope they get signed to the biggest label so they can keep pushing it.
When we first started going to hardcore shows, it was like every Sunday at CBGB's, and it was like you couldn't miss it because you didn't want to miss what was going on, and it was like the only thing we lived for. Like going to school sucked, and living at home really sucked, and working a shit job, but then you got to go to the hardcore matinee, and it was the best thing in the world. And still now, playing shows is the greatest thing. Like that's why we came out today, because we knew it was going to be a fun show. To like play at the, the house in the basement.
Still going to shows, it's like a social thing. We see all of our friends and stuff. I was attracted because it was very open. You didn't have to look a certain way or anything. And for the fact that it wasn't pretentious. Like we used to go to shows when we were young. We'd go to see Black Sabbath, and you were in the audience in a chair, and there was this untouchable band, And then we go to a hardcore show, you're talking to some kid, he goes, oh, I got to go play now. And it was just that was it for me. It was just like, yeah, you're there, you can just, everybody played, and it was just a good mutual time,
It's such a close-knit, at least back then, it was such a family thing in Boston.
Yeah, punk rock and hardcore is just the first accessible music you get into. You know what I mean? I mean, the kids are right there, they're the same age, a little older than you, and, they're not, like, in backstage or hanging out with these, like, little rock chicks or nothing. They're talking to you, and that blows your mind. I mean, before they've been all these, like, big rock bands and shit, And all of a sudden, here's this band that you buy their albums, you worship, and then there they are talking to you, hanging out with you. You know what I mean? And then to your friends, that's just, you can't beat that. And that's just, when you see them doing that, makes you think that you can do it, and that's how we started, being in bands since we were teenagers. So I think it's more of a values thing. I think it's more of like something you get into when you need something else in your life. Something's missing for some reason, and maybe you're not satisfied with everything else people go through, whether it's, when we were kids, but now the kids like the Hootie and the Blowfish or whatever, that whole kind of vibe that doesn't really get you fucking going, you know what I mean? Or the whole like metal thing is just too
Dungeons and Dragons.
Too Dungeons and Dragons, far-fetched. Hardcore is more reality-based. It's something you have, and it's a family. It's the first place you can go where everyone just accepts you for what you're into, hopefully.
Totally.
It used to be that way. For some part, it depends on the scenes. And we used to complain about it before, complain about it now. It's still really closed-minded and really cliquey. But we all used to say that 10 years ago, too.
When I got into it, you could be who you wanted to be, and like everyone was accepted. It wasn't like you had to be too cool, or you're cool enough to be with the jocks, or cool enough to be with whoever, you know what I mean? It's like everyone was supposed to be accepted.
Now it seems like it's just any band that wants to do well and get shows and play in that scene just says, oh yeah, we're a punk band.
It's expensive to be a punk rocker now, isn't it? We used to go in your dad's closet and get his old blue-collar work shirts, and but now you got to have like the big baggy $100 skateboard pants and all that. Backpacks full of stuffed animals, all that shit.
It's not what I remember from when I was very young, but the people who, were the movers and shakers when I was young had that opinion too. They talked about the old days when it was my first day, in the scene. But I think that all people of our age are the last generation of kids who are involved in this, who are going to have any recollection of really the beginning of the whole affair. I think that from this generation on, people's motivation for being involved in it and people's recollection of the history of it is going to be different.
What you got to understand is, me personally cannot do anything else but what I'm doing. Okay, I went to school.